I've paid for links pointing at pages that were never going to rank no matter how many links landed on them. I've also burned entire evenings rewriting pages that were already fine and just needed a nudge, not a rebuild. Both of those mistakes cost real time, and when you're running more than one site, time is the resource that runs out before money does. I rank my own sites, not client sites, so when I get this call wrong, there's no report to spin and no account manager to blame. It's just my traffic that doesn't move and my budget that got spent on nothing. That's the lens this whole thing comes from. A portfolio I watch every week, not a single project I hand off and forget. The question, does this page need a link or a rewrite, sounds simple enough that most people never actually sit down and answer it properly. They just go with a gut feeling. A page stuck on page 2 gets assigned to needs links because links are the thing everyone talks about in this space. A page with weak traffic gets assigned to needs a rewrite because that's the easier story to tell yourself at 11 at night. Neither instinct holds up on its own. You need an actual diagnostic, not a hunch you've had since your first month doing this. So here's where I start. Every single time, before I touch a link or a paragraph, I pull up the top 5 results for the target keyword and I read them properly, not a skim where my eyes bounce down the page looking for word count. I'm checking 3 specific things: what format they're using, whether that's a list, a guide, a comparison, or some kind of tool, what the page is actually answering for the person who typed the query, and how deep they go on the subtopics a searcher in that space would expect to see covered. Let me make that concrete because it matters. Say your page is a 600-word overview and the top 5 results are 2,000-word guides with comparison tables and worked examples sitting right in the middle of the page. That's a content gap, plain and simple, and no number of links closes a gap like that. Links can push a page that's already competitive on substance up past pages that are weaker. They cannot manufacture substance that was never written in the first place. Now flip it around. If your page already matches the depth and the format of what's ranking, same structure, same level of detail, same kind of examples, and it's still sitting below the top results, that's a completely different signal. At that point, content parity is basically met, and the gap is more likely about how many other sites are pointing at the pages above you, and how established those domains are compared to yours. That's a link problem. Or at minimum, it's the kind of problem links are far more likely to actually move. Before I make any decision at all though, I go through the basics on the page itself, because a lot of pages that look like they need links are actually pages that just need the fundamentals fixed first. I check whether the title tag and the H1 actually match the query someone typed. If a person searches best budget tripod for travel and your title tag just says tripod reviews, you're leaving relevance sitting on the table before a single link ever gets built, and that's on you, not on the algorithm. I also check whether the page answers the query somewhere in the first 100 to 150 words. Readers do this and crawlers do this too. They both use the opening of the page to judge whether the rest of the scroll is worth their time. If your page spends 3 paragraphs on background and throat clearing before it gets anywhere near the point, that's a rewrite issue sitting right there in front of you. It's not a links issue at all. Then I check the internal links pointing at that page, specifically the anchor text being used. I found pages on my own sites where I'd link to them using anchor text like click here or just the bare URL sitting there doing nothing. That's a 5-minute fix. It costs nothing, and I clean it up before I ever consider spending a single dollar on external links. Because why would I pay for authority and then waste half of it with lazy anchor text I wrote myself? If any of those basics are broken, I fix them first, every time, no exceptions. It's free, it's fast, and more importantly, it removes a variable from the experiment I'm about to run. You do not want to build links to a page and then go back 2 weeks later and change the title tag, because now you have no idea what actually moved the needle, the links or the fix, and you've just burned your ability to learn anything from that page. After running this check across enough pages over enough years, I've landed on 4 buckets, and almost every struggling page I look at falls cleanly into one of them. For me, teacher bucket 1 is good content, few or weak links, ranking somewhere between position 8 and position 25. This is the cleanest build links case there is. The page already satisfies intent, it's just underexposed relative to what's sitting above it. This is where link building has the best odds of actually moving something, because you're not fighting the content itself, you're fighting exposure. and exposure is what links are built for. Bucket 2 is thin content with few links, ranking wherever it happens to be sitting. Here I rewrite first, and I don't build a single link until the content is at least on par with what's already ranking above it. I've watched pages jump several positions purely from expanding thin content and adding the sections competitors already had, with zero new links involved anywhere in the process, and that's the content gap closing. Bucket 3 is good content, decent links, but the page is still stuck, and this is the frustrating one if I'm honest. Sometimes it's a format mismatch I missed the first time through. The market wants a table and I shipped prose. Sometimes the intent behind the keyword has quietly shifted, and I'm now competing against a different kind of result than I think I am. When a page lands here, I go back and reread the top 5 results again, specifically for format and intent this time, not word count, because word count already told me what it was going to tell me. Bucket 4 is thin content with a pile of links already pointed at it. And this one usually happens because someone built those links before ever checking whether the content deserved them. If this is one of my own pages, the fix is almost always to rewrite it, not to keep stacking more links on top, because I'd just be pouring more effort into a page that can't hold a position even with a link profile that looks strong on paper. Here's the thing I had to train myself out of doing, splitting the difference. It's tempting to do a little of both at once, a light content refresh plus a small batch of links, and call the page covered. I've done exactly that more than once, and it makes it almost impossible to learn anything from the result. If the page moves, you don't know whether it was the content change or the links that did it. If it doesn't move, you don't know which lever to pull next, and you're back to guessing. On a single page that might not matter much, you shrug and move on. But across a whole portfolio, where you're making this exact call dozens of times a month, not knowing which lever actually works doesn't just cost you this page, it poisons the next round of decisions too, because you're still operating on a hunch instead of a track record. So my rule now is simple, and I don't break it. Pick one lever, make the change, and wait long enough to see a real signal, not a day or two, more like several weeks, because rankings move slowly and they move noisily even when nothing you did was wrong. Then decide on the next move based on what actually happened. If the content fix alone takes a page from position 15 to position 9, links are now genuinely worth trying. If the content fix does nothing at all, the content probably wasn't the bottleneck in the first place, and I go look at links or reconsider the keyword entirely. Now let me be straight with you about what links actually need to look like, because I'm not going to pretend there's a shortcut here, there isn't one. Relevant links from sites that have their own real audience and their own actual reason to exist are what move pages that already deserve to rank. Buying volume from networks built purely to pass links around, or trading links in bulk with sites that have nothing to do with your topic, is the kind of thing that's cost me clean pages before, either through no effect at all after spending real money, or through a site getting flagged in ways that take far longer to undo than the rewrite would ever have taken. If a link opportunity only makes sense because it's cheap and it's fast, that's usually the sign to skip it, not the sign that you found a deal. The pages that actually respond to real link building are the ones where I feel completely fine explaining the link to the site owner honestly, face to face, because the content stands on its own without any spin. If I wouldn't want to explain why a link exists, I don't build it, full stop. And a rewrite, a real one, isn't padding the word count to hit some number you saw in a tool. It's matching or exceeding the depth of what's already ranking in the format the query actually wants, with the answer sitting right up front where someone can find it fast. Sometimes that means the page triples in length because it genuinely needed that much. Sometimes it means cutting a bloated page down to something that finally answers the question instead of stalling for word count of its own. I've had rewrites that removed 40% of the content and still ranked better afterward because what was left actually matched intent instead of drowning it in filler. There's no fixed number of words or sections that guarantees anything here, and I'm not going to hand you one because I don't know your query and I don't know your competition. Nobody does from the outside. What I can tell you, flat out, is that skipping the step where you read the top 5 results properly is the single most common reason people build links to pages that were never going to hold a ranking anyway, or rewrite pages that never needed touching in the first place. If you want the step-by-step playbooks with the actual numbers from sites we run, not agency case study theater dressed up to look like proof, that's what I put together for exactly this kind of decision. The full playbooks and the tool tests are at theseodesk.com. Go take a look, and if this kind of thing is useful to you, subscribe so the next one finds you.